Welcome back to another episode of Better Than I Found It, the podcast all things college golf. You're listening to Mike McGraw, the men's golf coach at Baylor University. Today's special guest on Better Than I Found It is Dallas Baptist men's and women's head coach, Kenny Trapp. Now, Kenny's record at DBU, especially in the last 10 years, has been nothing short of remarkable. The three-time NCAA Division II National Championship coach has also produced over 40 All-Americans, and his women's team recently pulled off their 93rd team title under Kenny Trapp's leadership, a Division II national record. Now in his 21st year at DBU, his women's team is currently ranked number 2 in the nation, his men's team number 25, and his women's team is riding a 4-tournament win streak heading into the offseason. Great guy, great coach. Enjoy the listening. Okay, Better Than I Found It faithful. I'm honored to welcome my most recent guest to the podcast, Dallas Baptist head men's and women's coach, Kenny Trapp, to Better Than I Found It today. Kenny, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you doing this.
Absolutely, Coach. I appreciate you having me on. I've watched this over the years and excited that you had emailed me and texted me last week to get on. So, yeah, just excited to be here.
Well, I've had a mixture of everything from Division I Power 4 conference men and women coaches down to all the way down to junior college coaches and everything in between, and Hall of Fame coaches, national championship coaches, veteran coaches, retired. I've been all over the map with the coaches. I don't think I've had a Division II women's multiple national championship coach. So this is really exciting for me. We're going to talk about some of those victories that you've had there, but really cool to have you on today. We're not very far from each other, honestly, but I see you about once a year. So
Yeah.
usually at a tournament with some individuals at your tournament. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to make it this year because of a conflict, but I have a lot I want to cover today because you've had an amazing career. It's been over 20 years now, I think 21 years at DBU, and the success of both men's and women's teams has been stark. It's been amazing. But let's start with the current season, the current fall season, which the women have now completed the fall season, and the men have one more tournament, the DBU Classic, this coming Monday and Tuesday. But let's talk about it. A couple things to highlight, and I'll let you go through the fall for both teams, if you will. And but the women are now ranked second in the country. I know you've been ranked number 1 multiple years, different times on and off. So obviously the expectation for you probably is a very high ranking, but second for the women and 25th for the men. So I'm going to have you go through your entire fall schedule, just kind of hit the highlights of what your teams have done so far. But I would like to mention to my podcast listeners, you just became a record breaker in Division II women's golf. Your team at the West Regional Preview won your 93rd tournament as a head coach, and that set an all-time national record. So let me first begin by congratulating you. That's an amazing accomplishment.
Well, I appreciate it, Coach. Yeah, it's been a journey for sure, and it was nice to get that. And we started. My first win was in Colorado in 2009, so it was kind of a full circle moment to break that record back in Colorado. So that was cool. The girls didn't know until we had tied the record, and then I kind of told them the following week, that we had won in 2009. So I got the girls from the 2009 team, one of them, to send me the picture of that when we won. So, yeah, it was cool. It was really cool.
Could you have imagined 21 years ago kind of all the championships your teams would win and all these victories? I mean, I don't think you probably even thought about that. You didn't think it through this far, did you?
No, I didn't even know what I was doing, honestly. I was just trying to make sure I got on the bus the right time and get kids. I mean, you're just trying to do day-to-day stuff. I was young, obviously, and didn't even have a golf background. So, but yeah, no, I had no idea. You're just trying to win the day. And honestly, that's still what we're trying to do. So you just kind of look up, 20 years later, and it's like, holy cow, look at what these girls have done. I mean, it's just amazing.
Well, it really has been. And this fall, you won 4 out of your 5 tournaments. You're currently ranked number 2 in the country. Talk about any highlights that you've had. I know you won your host tournament, the DBU Classic, but you just had a great fall as well, not just because of the 93rd victory, but your team has played well.
Yeah, we're young this year. We don't have any seniors, so but we got a ton of returners back from last year's championship team, and um, had a couple new freshmen. So just didn't know really what to expect. I mean, obviously the expectation is always there, right? I mean, the culture the girls have created over the last 20 years is incredible. So that's there. So I know, they're going to come in knowing what the expectation is, but you still just don't know, right, until you get that group together. But this group has been awesome, really, really fun to coach. They're want to learn. They're really close, and we went to Michigan first event out of the gate, and we've been here in Texas where it's slow greens and soft, and we get there and it's running 12 and a half and like concrete. So that we didn't our first tournament out of the gate we kind of struggled a little bit, but that was a little expected. We're sitting there, they're like, what do you want me to do? I said, well, it's 149 of the hole, you need to hit at 131. They're like, what are you talking about? So we're like, balls have been just stopping on, you got to carry the exact yardage for the last 3 weeks of qualifying, and then you tell us, we get here. So it was an adjustment. We got better every day. It was a 3-day event, so we got better every day. And then since then, we've really kind of hit our stride. We won our home event, and then ran off to Florida for PGA National for the national preview, and won that one. Which that golf course is just really, really difficult. And then Colorado obviously was great to us. We got off to a really good start there, and just kind of dominated that event. And then this past week, we went to Midwestern, which is Wichita Falls Country Club, which I love that golf course. It's, it tests you in all ways, especially around the green. So, and it was really windy, as you can imagine, most of the time there. And, but we got off to another really good start, and then finished that off. So it was a good fall. Looking forward to working with some of these young girls, in the off season, the next 3 or 4 months before we get going again to work on some things. But yeah, I'm excited about this group. They kind of shocked me a little bit. And Madison Udy, who's a junior who didn't play much as a freshman and played a lot last year and was huge for our championship run, winning our matches, came in this fall, and she won 2 events, and she had been ranked 50 to 75 last year, and then this year she was up to 2 last week, and I think she's 12th right now. But yeah, she's been a game changer for us this fall. And then Ella, who is our best player, most talented player, won this past week shooting 8 under. So she, I think Maddie motivated her a little bit to get the job done. So as you know, winning's hard, and these girls put pressure on themselves, so you got to kind of relax. I think Ella made a commitment this week to not to look at the scoreboard and just play golf. And man, it really worked out. She ended up winning by a couple, and I think at one point was up 3 or 4 there in the last round. So really proud of her, proud of this group, and like I said, they want to start their own new legacy with this new team. So, and we've never gone back to back, so that's kind of I think they want to do that. And but again, just trying to win the day and not look ahead, right? And then as far as the guys, yeah, it was a great fall so far, and then we have one more. Started a little slow the first couple of events, but the last 2 we played really well. And last week in Amarillo, or the week before, we were, I think, at 10th and at one point, and ended up in 3rd there at the end. So yeah, it was great. And Coach Moore with the guys, he just started in August. So we I've lost some assistants over the last 6-7 years just because of the success on the women's side, and obviously people want to hire them. So it's just it's been a little bit of a turnover, and but getting Coach Moore is huge for us going forward. The as with the way salaries work, sometimes you got to stay young.
Yeah, for sure.
And but the administration and athletic directors and stuff made a commitment this summer to kind of up that salary and get somebody that we can keep for a long time. And obviously, Coach Moore's been a high school football coach for 21 years, so I've known him for that long, and we've been best friends. So we've been trying to do this, but salary rise couldn't make it work. But now we finally did. So just super excited to work with him and watch him lead, because he's definitely a builder of men, and I'm excited about that.
That's great. Well, your 3rd tournament was the Hernshire. Jerry Hernshire actually recruited me out of high school. I love
it. Okay.
Does he participate? Does he go to the tournament or not?
Oh yeah. So he still goes. I think he's been done, I don't know, about 4 years now, but yeah, I've known Coach forever. Everybody knows Coach, right? I mean, he's a legend, and he actually helped me a lot early in my career, a ton, just asking him questions, right? And he's an open book. He'll tell you anything you want to know, So, and obviously had a ton of success and a lot in Oklahoma. If you can have some success and a lot in Oklahoma, I feel like you can win anywhere.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I look back on him, and I think I'm thankful I went to Central Oklahoma. It was a great experience for me, and it kind of carved out what my future would be. But I always kind of look back and wonder if I'd played for Jerry, what would that have been like? Because I knew he was a great player, and he was a great coach, and he was intense, and he was competitive, and uh, he followed through with everything he said he was going to do, and he was disciplined. So I'm thrilled that he still goes to the tournament that is in honor of his name. So I think that's great. But but your men had a good fall as well. So congratulations on both accounts. That's really, really good. I have a question because I know I couldn't do what you do. It's impossible. I wouldn't be able to handle it. How do you juggle two programs? I mean, you're the head men's and women's golf coach over both programs, and I know you have Cody Moore to help you. So it's really important to have a great assistant. But how do you juggle both? That's got to be a really tough balance.
yeah, the first, I don't know, 11 years or so, 2000s, yeah, first 12 years, I guess, ish. We didn't, I did both like nonstop, right? Every other day, traveling every weekend. Well, 2017-ish, I guess. Yeah, 2017, I was like, hey, we've got to hire some full-time help besides just GAs. Like it's just not fair to the teams, right? I knew that eventually something had to give, with the travel. So, because I had kids of my own at that time that were young, my wife was just, you know how that goes. So, I mean, you got to have a great wife and great family to be a coach and travel like we do. So, anyway, the administration made a commitment. Hey, we'll get somebody full time. So we did that, and then what I've done is mainly made the assistant pretty much over the guys, and they still help me with the women. But 95% of my time now is with the women, and then obviously having Coach Moore here with the great leadership he's had, just for the last 21 years coaching football, I can kind of hand the reins to him, and I mean, I obviously still oversee it. Like I'm going to practice today because we're qualifying or whatever for this week's event. But yeah, just you have to have good people around you in your program, as you know. I mean, having a great assistant, like, and I've had some really good ones the last few years, but is just super important because you got to be able to trust them, right? I mean, they got to be able to have the reins and make decisions on the fly, and it's just ultra important. But yeah, it's tough. It's definitely tough, and but it's been a little better the last 7 or 8 years just because of having a full time assistant, and now getting a GA as well that helps both of us is huge. So that's part of having a great administration, right? To make sure they're committed to that, because I see a lot of coaches struggle, having to do both and not even have full time assistants. I'm like, man, I've been there. That's tough. It's really tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, I don't
So
think Division I Power Four conference coaches really appreciate that enough. We only have one assistant, but a lot of schools have two assistant coaches, and they've it's been a long time since they were doing the assistant coach deal. So it's pretty incredible when I see a D2 school that's thriving the way you have on both programs. For the longest time, you did it by yourself, and now you've got some help, which is great. I haven't met Cody, but I assume he's, like you said, a great leader of men, and that'll be a fantastic thing for the men's program as well. So,
absolutely.
but you mentioned it briefly at the very start. You said I didn't even have a golf background, and you were a great baseball player. I mean, you played, I think, some minor league baseball. You grew up in Texas City. You were a great player. You started at Alvin Community College, I believe, or San Jacinto
Yes,
Junior
sir.
College, and then
Yep.
transferred to DBU and finished your baseball career there. But tell me, how in the world does a baseball player who was actually drafted actually becomes a college golf coach? How did that start? And have you taken anything from your baseball experience? Well, I'll ask you that question about your baseball coaches in a minute. But how did you get into golf?
Yeah, so I, obviously grew up playing a lot of sports, but barely played any golf when I was young. And then when I was older, obviously got more serious with baseball, just, because I was pretty successful at it. And then my senior year of high school, probably a month left, I guess we got knocked out of playoffs. So I got some golf clubs and buddies wanted to start playing. And I mean, within a week, I just had the bug. I mean, I could not get enough of it. Um, just started playing every day. And I mean, every day. I was just a gym rat, right, with golf. So, but then obviously still played college baseball, went to JUCO, and then got drafted out of there, didn't sign, and then ended up, Lord had me come to DBU, which has been just an awesome place, obviously, for me. I've been here, I mean, I came here, transferred in fall of 99, so almost 26 years of some sort, left for a couple when I was still playing pro ball. But yeah, when I retired, I kept getting injured. Um, so I finally, I say retire, just kind of, whatever you want to call that, a minor league baseball player. But um, I came back and I was really good friends with our executive vice president at that time, who's now the president at East Texas Baptist University, Dr. Blair Blackburn. And then Dr. Cook was our president back then, and just super close to him. And they had been wanting to start golf. And so yeah, they asked me, "Hey, do you want to lead this thing?" And I'm like, they knew I had loved golf and had a passion for golf, obviously. Um, and I just thought I'd come back and coach baseball, to be honest. And then yeah, they asked me for that, and I went home to my wife and I said, "Hey, this is opportunity." And the first thing she said, she's like, "What are they going to pay you?" And I'm like, "You don't even want to know." You don't want to know the answer to that question. So anyway, but obviously the Lord has really provided and jumped right in. And yeah, just that first year we were just getting kids off campus. And then that first year I recruited, everybody. They would finally gave me some money on the girls' side a little bit. And the guys were, we didn't get scholarships on the guys' side until 2021. So all those years we were just had walk-ons. So which is really fun, to be honest, because then you get kids that really, really buy in, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's that's how it went, and never looked back. I couldn't even imagine doing anything else at this point, obviously. Um, yeah,
Well,
so that's kind of how that went down.
very well. I wouldn't do anything else if I were you. You're having a lot of success.
Well, good players make you look good, right?
Yeah.
So
I look back on it. The very best I ever looked in coaching was when I had the best players. So, but also when you don't have the best players, that sure tests you as a coach, and you figure out ways you can talk. But I contend this, even though I asked you how a baseball guy got into coaching college golf, that wasn't slighting you at all, because I think
yeah,
coaching is coaching, and I think a great motivator, a great guy who's hardworking, who cares about kids or whatever, could coach any sport. Now, he might not be able to be the head man, or he might not be able to be a position coach in football, but
sure.
coaching is coaching. And so I'm sure you've been able to use some of the things you had from your baseball world over here. Like, talk about the best baseball coach you ever had, and have you used anything that he used as a coach in the golf coaching world?
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate in my college career. I had some really, really good coaches, but there's one that stands out, and for me, that is Todd Williams. He was our assistant at DBU only for 1 year, so only my first year, but just the impact, right? Just coming in, I was a non-believer, and then just watching him walk, by faith and seeing that, and then obviously I accepted Christ after that, and but no, he was just so passionate. I mean, it just you want it to be better. Like you saw how he approached every day, and he's still coaching. I mean, he went back to Embry Riddle at that time, which was NAI, and then him and his brother Greg Williams coached together. They were at Valdosta State for a long time, had a ton of success, and then Coach Quill went to, I think in about 2011 or so, made the jump to D1. So he went to Western Carolina, and then he went to Kentucky with one of his former players, Nick Mingione, who's still there. And probably 2015-ish, 16. So he was with him for a while. And then now he's at Utah as their head recruiting coordinator for Coach Henderson at the University of Utah. So, and we still talk, a few times a year, text and talk. So he's a huge part of what we do here. Like, I mean, just so competitive, but in a good way, an accountability way. Um, so that he's made a huge impact on me. There's no question about it, and he knows that. I tell him that quite often. That even every time we win or do something, I'll send him a text and say, "Coach, I just I think back of who inspired me the most as a coach, and it's always returns back to him, just
Well,
because of his passion and having purpose, and holding people accountable. Accountability is love, right? So
it is.
that is it is. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned a baseball coach that's affected your golf coaching. One of the best coaches I've ever been around was a guy named Dave Sammons. He was the high school cross country coach at Edmond High School in Edmond, Oklahoma. And I was his
There you
assistant
go.
for 3 years when I was a high school golf coach. And Dave's impact on my coaching career is still felt today. I mean, I look back on the time I spent together. Coaching is coaching, and great coaching transcends all endeavors in all sports. And I think it's really important to know that, and it's always good for me on this podcast to hear from a coach about somebody who's impacted his coaching career and why. And you just explained why, and it sounds like to be a guy I'd love to have as my assistant coach too. So, but anyway, thanks for sharing that and your story about getting
Absolutely.
into golf coaching to begin with. But let's talk about recently in 2021, 2023, and 2025, just last spring. Your women's teams have won national championships. I mean, that is incredible. To have three in a 5-year stretch is amazing. You need to win on the even years and really make it look like something, right?
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
But
That's
tell
right.
me, what are the greatest memories? Some things that really stand out over the last three championships. You might win some more, but if not, what are some memories you cherish and you want to take forward?
Yeah, I mean that's an incredible run. When you read that, it still gives me goosebumps because you just, you're in it and you've done it, but it just takes a lot of people, right? All pull in the same direction, and it truly takes a village, from players to admin. I mean, and those memories. I mean, I'll never forget some of the shots, especially the first one. And I'll back up to 2017. Um, we're in the lead. It's back then. It was stroke play. We went to medal match play in 2019, but in 2017 we had led kind of after the first round, second round, third round. So in the middle of the fourth round, we had rain delays and all this in the third round, and then lost the lead. But in the middle, the start of the fourth round, we had the lead, lost it, and got it back. So we're going. We're on the last couple of holes, and it's pretty much tied. We take the lead, and then one of the girls from Barry makes a 30-footer on 18 to tie us. And then our best player at that time um, was a sophomore named Ann Parmenter, who was one of the best players in the country all 4 years that she was here. And she's 90 yards out, and just happened to, we're tied. Their girl's probably 85 yards out. Annie's 90 out on a par five, and Annie thin one over the green, and we ended up losing by one. And but without that, looking back, because obviously that's devastating because then that group never got to win one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have 2021 if we don't have 2017, in my opinion. The heartbreak is what drove us again, kind of restarted that. And obviously had tons of success in 18 and 19, didn't win it, but that group won 18 more tournaments, I think, in the next 2 years, and ended up finishing second and third, those next couple of years. So um, and then 21, I obviously after COVID and all that, so we didn't get to play as much of that fall, but in the spring it was a full schedule. Um, but we're down. We're in the last match. We're playing Lynn, um, and I think the last two matches. Well, I know Hannah was down. She had to win her last two holes, and she is in the middle of the fairway on 18. I don't know if you've ever been to TPC Michigan, but it's kind of a layup. So there's a creek about 240 off the tee, and it's a little downhill. So you really can only hit something about 200 yards. And that leaves you 140 to 160 basically. So she goes first. She's one down, and I know we have to win the match because we had lost we had tied and won one right off the bat, but we had to win the match and at least tie the last two. So, because I knew we had the tiebreaker if we did that because one girl had won by 7. So I didn't know if you knew how medal match play works, but it's
Yeah.
strokes at the end. Now that we changed it to a playoff now, but back then it was just the strokes mattered that last match. So she was playing a freshman, and I told Hannah, I said, "Hey, I know we're one down here, but we're going to be disciplined. We're going to stick to what we're doing, and we're going to hit this shot right of the hole, and we're not trying to flag it." She had an 8 iron from 140 or whatever it was, and so she hit it up there 20 feet. And she was playing a freshman, and I said, "I know this girl is fixing to be really aggressive. I just knew it." And sure enough, she pulled it 2 yards and goes in the bunker, short sides herself. Hannah ends up winning. Okay, and so we're going nuts on the green, but at the time, I I I didn't know what was happening behind because I was with Hannah because I knew we had to win that match, right?
Oh yeah.
so, so I take off sprinting because I walk, I don't ride in the car. So I sprint to 17, and then I get a text saying, "Hey, she just birdied it. She hit it 3 feet, so she's only one down. She was two down, so she birdied at 17. Olivia Mitchell, who was a freshman at that time for us, so she hits 4 iron off the tee on 18 and has 152 in, and she's one down, so she's got to win the hole. She's at least she has to tie, and their girls in the middle of the fairway, and so we're talking about the shot. It's a little into the wind, it's a little uphill, but I knew she was juiced a little bit, so I said, "Hey, I think it's just your stock 8 iron, and she's like, I agree, and I said, "Hey," I said, it still gives me goosebumps because it's just the look on her face. She said, she was like, this is the right one. I said, "Yes, this is it." I said, "Hey, this is why you came here,
Mm.
for this moment." I said, "You're built for this. This is the only reason you came to DBU is for this reason." Based, as in golf terms.
Sure.
And so yeah, it left the club, and yeah, I took off walking because I knew she was, and she hit it 3 feet. Obviously, the rest is history. Made the putt, and we win it. But yeah, that was incredible way to finish birdie to win a national title, and everything else had to go right too, right? Because we were dead in the water with about 6 holes left, and so yeah, that first one was great, and then in 22 I mean, we had 5 All-Americans, and we were pretty much unbeatable in the spring, and then we win the stroke play by I don't know how many. It was a lot. So we're the number one seed, and on the back nine of the first round of medal match play, we had a couple of them struggle, and we ended up losing that first round. So that was devastating that year because we were a really really good team. That's probably the best team we had at that time. And then returned to 23 and get back to had another great year and had a bunch of returners again, and they were hungry again. They felt like they had gotten beaten in 22. It just was a huge letdown, so they worked hard all year. And then 23 at match play just played incredibly well. We had a couple girls really step up. The 4 and 5 girls, were undefeated there in the semifinal and final, and that's what got us over the hump that year, which was really really cool to see. Because one girl who's my GA now, Erin Garza, she wasn't in the lineup but one time in the spring, and in the in the championship I put her in. I just had a gut feeling. I knew she was really hard to beat in match play because she was really disciplined player. Wasn't going to shoot anything real high, and I knew the pressure would be on some of those other girls that were way better than her ranking wise to win. Like they felt like they had to win that point. So I mean, she just shot 74-5 every time and won all of them. You know how that works, right? When the person's supposed to win and there's a ton of pressure, and she just stayed the course and kept hitting shot after shot and two putt and get on to the next hole, kind of deal. So that was so much. I was really excited for her and the team again, obviously. And then this past year was just, I mean, we played so well in stroke play and in match play. We had, I think really our 4 and 5 girl, Madison and Sydney, shot 5 out of the 6 rounds in the 60s in match play.
Mm.
So, that was incredible. And yeah, it's still hard to believe, to be honest, that you won 3 national titles. But, you think back of just the success of the last 10 years was really built the first 10, right? Like those girls weren't near as talented, but they still did the right things, and they're the ones that built the culture. These girls are just the better golfers, so it's been way easier for them, right? When you have that culture and what that is, and just the excellence and chasing greatness, and they kind of set the standard. Now we didn't win as much back then, but they still showed up every day and did the work and did it the right way. And so yeah, we're seeing the fruits of that labor from those girls that were early on, and so it's been awesome, and it's really cool to see the older girls, the first recruits still involved, and so it's really cool. It's
Yeah.
it still inspires me, to be honest.
Well, that's a great story you just told, kind of how the genesis, it goes all the way back to 2017 and the heartbreak that drove you guys and you girls to continue to improve. But right now, it builds on itself. And
Right.
the culture and the tradition, when the girls are teeing it up in the fall season, well, they know they're part of something special, and they feel pressure, I'm sure, but they also feel the expectation that we're supposed to do this. Let's go do this. And it builds on it. But, one of the other things it leads to, in my opinion, is the ability to recruit other great players, and then also the ability
Yes.
to fundraise. So let's talk a little bit about your projects for the physical fundraising part of what it is. It's a Division II team, and you've been
Sure.
involved in raising funds to build a 5,000 square foot practice facility on campus, an indoor hitting bay in 2016, and also an on-campus practice facility in 2018. So a lot has been put into the finances as far as facilities. How have you seen that develop through the years, and has it kind of gone hand in hand with great success?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a little bit of both, right? And then honestly, just building relationships at the country clubs, and then having those people invest and see the kids out there, and so yeah, the first project we did was just kind of a push-up green, in 2011, I think 10, 11. So we did that, and then in 2018 we redid the whole thing, the right way. I made it about, I think it's 80 yards or so. So we got to redo that. And then in 16, we'd done the indoor, but it was just a net, right? We had the TrackMan. Um, and then in 2022, we just redid the whole thing and made it a full simulator with a living room. And, my office is in here, Coach Moore's office is in here. So the kids can come hang out, watch TV, you know, uh, play on the simulator, do what they need to do indoor with the TrackMan and stuff. And so, yeah, that, as far as, so I've had to kind of go the route of outside of the program because our kids ain't old enough yet, right?
Yeah.
So now that some of my graduates are, in their late 30s, early 40s, basically in that time frame, so that we're starting to go that route now, where some of them are really wanting to get involved. So we just, our next project, obviously we want a standalone building, but for me, as far as as thinking that what do we really need? And as you know, showing up to a driving range at any country club with 20 kids is
Mm.
just an eyesore, right? So
Uh,
as you know, because y'all built the Williams Academy. I think it's the Williams Academy. If I
it
Dave
is.
Williams. Yeah. So that's something we just did the plans for that to have a driving range on campus. We have the land across the street, so it'd be across the street. So for us, that's the next project. I just got the plans like last week, so we're obviously in the early stages of that. But just having those plans to be able to show former players like, hey, this is what we're going to need. This is a, in my opinion, it's a major need because then you have access to hit on the range at all times on grass instead of how it is when you go to country clubs. You don't want to beat their range to death constantly and all of those things. So I mean that's the biggest struggle I think for especially D2 and D3 programs is finding a place that they're welcomed at, right? So we're very lucky in that regard. Um, but still, we can take a lot of pressure off these country clubs if we build something besides just an on-campus short game area where we have a driving range to ourselves and can do that. And then when we can go to the course, it's just for qualifying or playing or whatever, right? So,
Sure.
um,
Sure.
yeah, so just trying to navigate those relationships and with former players and get them involved because they're invested too, that's why they want to give, right? They want to give to something that made an impact on their life, and so yeah, that's the next stage here is getting some of those guys and girls involved, and they want to start a committee, so that's going to be huge for us as well. So yeah, that's kind of how that goes. But it's all about relationships, as you know. You have to be able to build relationships.
For sure. And those relationships get stronger and stronger through the years. And the common bond obviously is the success the team had, or the bonding they did while they were on the team. And you being a coach there for over 20 years, you've been a constant. So that's important too as well. But you mentioned local. I think it can't be overstated how important it is to keep relationships with golf courses and head
Yes.
professionals, and just being careful that your players do the right things when they're there. How many courses do you all play?
So we have 3 memberships. The old Oak Cliff Country Club, which is now a Golf Club of Dallas, is where both teams are go at least half the time, and they're really really good to us. It's old school, a smaller driving range, but it's just full access anytime we want, and they really roll out the red carpet almost to us, which is really special, and so we appreciate them. And then the guys and girls are also at Hackberry Creek, which is an old club corp course there in Las Colinas, which is really, we've been there the whole time. So we joined there the very first year. Ben Burns was the head pro there back then, so we built a relationship with him, and then he was only there a few years before he went to Crown Colony. But yeah, just we've been there the whole time. The guys mainly go there now, and then the girls, we joined DAC, Dallas Athletic Club, in 2019. So we've been there. We only go a couple times a week over there. Their short game facility is, in my opinion, the best. I mean, it's just unbelievable, and there's nobody ever back there. So they treat us really well. The members love the girls there, and so yeah, and we'll qualify out there too. But it's a little further, so we try to only make them go, once or twice a week, just because of it's 25 miles away. So I don't want them having to go over there every day. So that's kind of our 3 places. And so, like I said, the guys mainly go to Hackberry and the girls go to DAC if we're away from Golf Club of Dallas. But yeah, it's the biggest struggle for programs, in my opinion, is having a place to play. There's no question about it. Just from hearing different coaches and at tournaments, their struggles is definitely trying to find country clubs that you have access to, which is, huge in our development part, as you know, and recruiting.
It is. We are very fortunate at Baylor. 15 years ago, the coaches talked the university into buying memberships. So we have the initiation for the memberships is done, and the school just pays the dues every month, which is great. To have a home course like Ridgewood Country Club, just to have a home course you can call home, is pretty amazing. Where you
Sure.
don't, you're not
Yes.
walking around on eggshells. It's great to be out there, and we are thankful for that. So I do know it'd be a challenge at Division II. My sister Patty Coatney coached at Central Oklahoma. She was their first coach, Division II coach, from
Yep.
04 to 08.
Yeah.
Did you remember seeing Patty at all?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I
That's my
remember
twin
her. Yeah,
sister.
when I first started.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was getting the program started there. She coached about 4 or 5 years, and then didn't after that. But she always talked to me about, boy, it was challenging. And you had 4 high schools and
Yep.
the men's and women's teams at UCO all trying to get on at Kickingbird Golf Course. It was just like,
Yes. Yes. There's no question. Yeah, I'm super close with Coach Bond, who's there, been there since your sister left. And
yep,
yeah, they go, and he mows out there in the mornings because he's just such a worker. But yeah, they just redid it. I've heard it's really good.
it's
Um,
fantastic. It's a really amazing job. Yeah,
yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, so I'm going to ask a question that I don't think applies to you, but I'm going to see if it does or not. But NIL and transfer portal, I don't think NIL has probably affected your men's and women's teams very much, has it?
No, not really. We do have one player that's getting a pretty good amount from NIL money on the girls' side, and then as far as the men, no, we're just not there yet. As you know, now with baseball being Division I, they're they have to do that now, and so I don't envy that at all. That whole side of it. But and then as far as the transfer portal, I've man, I don't know. I have different feelings about it. I think you should be able to allow transfer one time, not 10, and go right into play. But I guess I'm a little old school in that way. I just feel like it's really hard to build culture with that many transfers all the time, all over the place. And then on top of that, with the more so with you guys, like having to navigate what you're going to pay certain players and NIL money. Like, you got a player that's an All-American and another one's coming in that you don't even know, and you got to pay them more. It's like, whoa, where's the line? You're like, it just creates a lot of issues, in my opinion. And we're so big on culture that I don't let many people in. You got to be in the circle, I feel like. So I try to do a really, really good job of vetting people when I'm recruiting, to make sure that they're a really good teammate, that they're really competitive, that they're going to fit into our culture here at DBU with being faith-based, obviously, and Christ-centered. So the transfer portal. I I haven't done much of it, to be honest.
Well, I just wondered if you'd explored it, but have other coaches tried to get your players? That's the question.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that happens. I feel like ours are pretty loyal, make no mistake about it. I want what's best for them, right?
Sure.
But there's also, I've seen people try to make the jump either from a mid-major to a Power Four or D2 to a Power Four, whatever the case may be. But there's also something to be said about being comfortable where you're at to get better. And then, you go to if you're an All-American at D2, which obviously they can play at a high level, especially the top, the first teamers, they go to a Power Four, all of a sudden they have a week or two of bad tournament. Well, they're done. They're going to drop to 8th or 10th on the list. That's just the way it is, right? I mean, everybody's good. So I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. I just feel like for us here, the girls are really bought in. So I couldn't imagine them leaving, but I could be wrong. But I've only had one issue one time, and that's been a few years back, probably 7 or 8 years ago, where somebody tried to kind of backdoor me on that. But I kind of snipped that in the butt pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it has. I think it has a place. If a kid gets into a situation that's terrible and he has an opportunity, he or she.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
But unfortunately, it's created a whole other segment or other part of the game that you're going. Is this what we signed up for? I don't think so.
Yeah. No, I agree. Absolutely. Yeah, there's certain situations, 100% kids need another chance. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, it seems like it's created a kind of a free-for-all there that it was not intended that way.
Nope, it was not. It was not. Well, listen, before we finish here, and I appreciate once again you spending some time. I learned a whole lot more about you and your program and about Division II women's and men's golf that I didn't know. But what have you got? You're going to have after the men play the DBU Classic this Monday and Tuesday.
Sure.
They'll be off for the fall season. What do you guys do in the off season in a D2 program?
Yeah, so we'll have a couple times a week. We'll have small group stuff where that's kind of when we dive into more technical stuff, just trying to help them kind of learn. Because as you know, when they get here in August, you start qualifying and you're gone in 2 weeks playing, so it's a little difficult to. We're unlike other sports where they may get months or at least a spring or whatever before to kind of coach them up. But yeah, so we'll do a couple times a week, small group stuff. We'll play a Ryder Cup against each other, which is really fun. The teams are close this year, so that'll be really fun. And then, heck, as you know, it's Thanksgiving, and then they're gone. So just helping them understand, hey, this is what are you waiting for the spring, or are you preparing for the spring? Which one are you, right?
So I love it.
So if they prepare the right way, we'll be ready to go in February round one when we tee it up. So.
Well, Kenny, I am very impressed with the job you've done up there. I've watched from afar for quite a while, and I'm thankful you decided to come on here today and just kind of tell your story and your program's men's and women's story. And I look forward to watching you guys compete this spring. Best of luck, and thanks again for joining me today.
Coach, I appreciate it. Just thankful to be here at DBU, and again, just appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. All right, take care.